Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Horns Down podcast with my guy at Preston Grant doing a post game reaction show right now. You know what, PG, go ahead, man. Just tell us, what did you see out there? What did you like from both sides of the ball? We can start with offensive side of the ball, or just go however you want to go about it.
Yeah, I was one of the things I was really curious to see going into this weekend was how was that bye week going to affect the team, right? For so long, we've heard about how the guys have no legs, and quite frankly, the past couple of games you've just seen it. They looked beat, and I mean, the defense came out there this game, and I think played the best game they've played all season. I know you might look at the box score and you'll see those 378 total yards with 312 of those being the passing. But listen, when you throw 57 times and
Mhm.
complete 37 of them, you're bound to have some passing yards. But when you look at it, they were not giving up big chunk plays. They were not they did not have a I think that I only saw it once or twice where they had a blown coverage or whatever. Like they were playing really solid defense. When you look at the rushing stats on this game, it really shows 66 total rushing yards for Iowa State. You come up with 3 turnovers, which honestly, when you look at the statistics, that's the difference in the game right there with the offense not playing as well in the second half. So ultimately, I am super excited about this defense. They looked really good. It's an improvement. So
Mhm.
I'm not going to act like this is what we're going to see for the rest of the season, but it's an improvement. And this is the kind of defense that I'm expecting to see from Brent Venables in the years to come. As far as the offensive side of the ball goes, I thought they looked good, especially in the running game, but there's just too many drops with the receivers, whether they were in the wrong spots or whatever it was. There were just too many drops, and I'm not going to single anybody out because there were a couple people that did it, but that's got to get cleaned up. I don't
Well,
expect to see that again. So
well, let me go ahead and jump in here and just say, like, hey, man, Marvin Mills was physically present, but I don't know what was going on with that. It's just like, damn, there is a huge disconnect. There were at least the very first play of the game. Look, here's one thing I want to point out to you guys. Why go back on some of these games and watch them and look at the very first play of the game? Levy is trying to take the top off the defense automatically, and the plays are there. It's just the execution is poor. I really don't know what to say about what happened with Marvin Mims. I think it's just an off game. It is what it is. I don't like Hank says. I don't think Mills will have another game like that. Hopefully not. It just was an off day. But this to me was one of the most offensively frustrating games that we've had in quite a while, and it was just because even though we put up 27 points, let's be real, we left a lot of points out there on the field. We left a lot of points. There were some penalties, some key penalties on some drives, and there were some drops, and we were moving the ball, but just we couldn't capitalize and we could not score for some odd reason. Eric Gray seems like he got injured, not only at the end of the game, but there was a spell there where we saw Marcus Majors exclusively. So, I mean, the whole thing is, it's just you want to see them be more consistent. I thought Dylan Gabriel played a really good game today. The drops, he went 15 to 26. He went 15 to 26 for 148 yards and 1 touchdown. Arguably, there was a cut there. I mean, let's be real. 3 or 4 of those passes right there are kind of more on the wide receivers than it's on him. I'm not trying to just push blame to somebody, but I'm just saying that Weiss had a catchable ball. Mims had a few catchable balls. Got to capitalize on those plays. We left some points out there. So overall, I'm pleased. Offensively, we were able to do what we needed to do to move the ball and be able to sustain drives, which I thought that was going to be a key thing, because obviously at one point they wanted to turn this into a time of possession game. It seemed like we were winning that at some point. I don't know the actual stats on that, but still. Going to the defensive side of the ball, my only problem with today is the fourth downs and the two consecutive fourth downs that led to a touchdown, and then the third and longs. Like that just can't happen. Like, it can't. You have to be consistent. My uncle was laughing. He was saying, because I screamed and I said, "Hey, look, that's what Stutzman has to do to take his game to the next level." He was like, "What? Get a pick?" I was like, "No." Stutzman has to be able to play better in coverage. He's not been consistent at that all year. And I think that's going to be another layer of his game that once he adds that, it's going to make our cover three, our zone matchups, all those zone concepts that we're trying to run, it's going to make it that much better. And it's going to help him out in the long run as well. So coverage has to get better by the linebacker core. Agwebu, there's still some pursuit angles that I'm like, I see what you're doing. I see where your eyes are going. You're trying to make the correct play, but it's just, oh my gosh. But hey, I'll say this right here. The bright spot of the defense, in my opinion, was the corners. I thought that the secondary was decent today. I thought the secondary is probably your best part of your defense today. Defensive line, we were able to get a pass rush. We just couldn't finish. We were that close. We just couldn't finish. And I mean, you got to have that against a team like that. But to go up 20-6, and you get this team 4th and 11, 4th and 10, stuff like that, you got to be able to have that killer instinct and like that, be able to, on a drop of the dime, be able to close a game. That game should have ended 20-6 or 27-6, but we spotted them a touchdown. But you know how that goes. But I mean, looking at the stats though, let's see. Defensively,
Deshaun White had a great game. Like I think it was 14 total tackles. He had a great game.
You had 30. Hunter Decker was 37 of 57 for 370 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Danny Stutzman had a really good one. That first one, obviously on that drive by Woody Washington, that was kind of a little bit questionable, but hey, we got it. And then the one by Broyles was honestly a pleasant surprise. What were their rushing yards? Let me see what the rushing yards
66 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Our rushing defense was on it today. They were, I mean, they said it multiple times on the broadcast. They were making Hunter Decker throw the ball.
Let's see. You know what? Let's go here. I'm going to go to the comments real quick. I'm going to go to Hank and then I'm going to go to Carvin. But I would say this. That's exactly what I was saying during the game. I was like, the creativity is at an all-time high. But the execution, I was just like, no, I don't like that. I don't really like that play. One specifically was whenever they would motion the wide receiver out, but motion him back. Not the wide receiver, the running back, excuse me. And then they would have him do the inside run. And I was like, that's not fooling anybody. That's not working. We're not getting that push, you know? And then on the goal line, I think, coming into the season, I think a lot of Sooner fans were worried, okay, well, if we spread them out too much, are we leaving ourselves too thin on the goal line to actually try to play bully ball? Well, I think that we have to spread these defenses out on the goal line because I don't necessarily think that we're that dominant. We're dominant in certain areas of our offensive line, but not in the interior. Does that make sense? So no, I definitely agree with Hank about that as far as just the play calling kind of being all over the place. And then say defense looked great. Horns down was right, and that we were close, but we could not fit. Yeah, I mean, the pass rush, you've been asking for a pass rush for like the last few games, the last few weeks, but you haven't really seen it. It was there today, but man, you were that close to really turning that corner. So you're just kind of wondering what's going to be the next level. What's the next step they have to take to do that, But they looked really good. They looked alert. They looked fresh out there this week. It reminded you a lot of the games you saw early on in the season, the first 3, at least in my opinion.
It helped that they were pretty healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get Billy Bowman back, getting Harmon back, you get our Mason Thomas back, right? You're getting a lot of those guys that were really difference makers on that side of the ball. And when we lost them, I think that's when our defense really lost its stride. So that definitely helped. I would be more apt to see is it Broyles back there? I would like to see him out a little bit more and keep Key Lawrence in. They did that at one point where they took Key Lawrence out and it made no sense.
Yeah. I like the rotation though. I think we all talked about that, just seeing kind of more of a rotation back there. And I think that's you saw that, and you saw a lot of guys back there. Hell, you saw Gentry Williams come out there and have a good spell.
These freshmen are good. Freshmen are good.
Yeah. what I would say, you saw Bowman was back, and obviously, I'm excited for him next year when he gets to take that brace off. I'm not sure how long he's going to be in that brace, but you're definitely wanting to see more consistency out of that group, and just see them continue to do exactly what they've been doing, right? But like I said, that defensive line, we have really good players on the defensive line. It just hasn't all come together this year. But like I said, these last few stretches of game, I think you're going to be better. One thing on defense I'll point out, too, to everybody in the chat and to UPG, and get your thoughts on this right here. One thing I thought we were better at for the most part today was not getting caught up in all of the pre-snap motion stuff, So pre-snaps motion, when they're motioning guys and they're sending them across, they're sending their tight ends across, or whatever the case may be. We did a better job at making sure that we had, helmet on helmet, right? That we were making the tackles. Tackling was good today. So it wasn't always great, because there were some third downs where they were able just to run some simple out routes because they were isolating guys out there, and those guys were kind of playing more of a zone, kind of a matchup zone or whatnot. So they were able to run those easy outs. But at the same time, I thought we were pretty good at that today.
Yeah, no, we were pretty good at that today. I don't know. I'm looking at Anthony Crawford's comment in here. He's talking about an ugly win, but I'll take it. Need to get better. We do need to get better in some aspects. I wouldn't necessarily say it was an ugly win, because, and again, in a lot of spots, we looked a lot better. Just you pointed it out at the end. Iowa State tried to play a time of possession game, which we were actually surprisingly winning. We were surprisingly winning that game, but the score should have been, if you look at it, if Mims wouldn't have had a couple of those drops, the score probably should have been at least another 20 points on there. At least another 20 points.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there were 2 of those that were touchdown passes. So I wouldn't consider it an ugly win. I'd give the defense a B+ today. I'd give the offense probably a B-.
I could see that. I think overall I'd probably give them still a C+, just because I'm just that critical, because of those 2 4th down drives, man. Those 2 4th downs, like that can't happen.
That's our weakness. That's our weakness. I remember I saw someone tweet it, and I want to say it might have been JP, but somebody tweeted it and said that teams should just start kneeling it till they get to a 4th down against Oklahoma. They can't cover a 4th down. But no, I mean, so I'm sitting here watching this West Virginia game too, and they're down by 3 right now. TCU's driving into the West Virginia territory with a minute left. One of the things, though, that I think should be really encouraging is you mentioned it, the secondary looked a lot better in this game. And if Billy Bowman's back there and Woody Washington continues to have performances like he did today, you're going to need that when you have to go play at West Virginia, because West Virginia is killing TCU right now in the passing game. And that's our weakness. It feels like that's our weakness every single year.
One of the things I would say is this right here, is that West Virginia is highly inconsistent. So we'll see. Next week is Baylor. So, I mean, that's going to be a game within itself. It's going to be a defensive game, and they haven't looked their best, but hey, hopefully we can continue to do exactly what we've done in these last 2 games. Let's go to some of the comments. Offensive line was not impressive, but okay. I'd have to agree with that, because simply they just wasn't. I don't know. I mean, they made some holes, they made some plays, different things like that happened, but it wasn't their overall like their best game that they've had this season, or one of their best games, So as a unit, because to be honest with you, whenever Gray went out, we couldn't move the ball at all. I mean, we could not run the ball. It was like Marcus Majors was either he wasn't seeing the hole, or we just weren't blocking the right way. There was a couple of times on some of those plays, for example, when I think it was when Gray reversed field, and then he was trying to run it, and I think it was I want to say either a linebacker or one of their safeties came up. Antoine Harrison, I'm all pointing this out. Antoine Harrison was looking inside, when if he would have just looked outside, there was nobody over there, cleared him. That's probably a touchdown. So,
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The offensive line didn't play their best game, especially with, the improvement we felt like we have seen from the offensive line.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, we thought the offensive line has played a lot better, but they also haven't had a quarterback back there to really, let the spotlight shine on them. So now that, Dylan Gabriel's back, I would expect to see the offensive line really start to show its flaws. I
Yeah.
will say their penalties, I think they had one false start penalty today. And I heard it was pretty loud there. So that's a plus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think if you can bring back Antoine Harrison next year, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you can bring back Wande Morris next year. I think Chris Murray graduates, but I think you can bring back Wande Morris for a
Hell, he may have the COVID year. You never know.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think Chris Murray does, but I think Wande Morris does. So
It's going to be an interesting offseason because I think we all believe that Venables is going to probably get rid of some guys, possibly on the staff, possibly and definitely on the field. It's going to be interesting to see with this class. I mean, there's rumors about some additions and these guys and those guys. And
Samson Okunoa.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of things that's going to happen this summer or this spring. I mean, excuse me, hell, this winter. To be honest with you, through this entire off season, there's some things that's going to be happening. So it's going to be interesting. OU football is going to be a topic of interest for a lot of people.
Yeah, they're going to provide us great content every week. Every week there's going to be something, whether it's Texas A&M transfer portal news to Oklahoma, or here's the thing is, and this is what I want a lot of people to understand. So the team, I don't feel like looks as good as you think it would, even with them dipping into the transfer portal this year, because the staff came in late. And so they kind of were behind the 8 ball in terms of who they could go get in the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
They have a start. So as soon as the transfer portal is available to start grabbing guys out of there, you're going to see Venables go in there and take guys that might be a head scratcher. But here's the thing. On defense, they're going to be able to run his scheme. So not only are you going to bring in a really talented class, and some of those guys might be able to start from that class, but you're also going to be able to bring in guys from the transfer portal that know how to run this scheme and they have experience, which is going to be important. And like you said, he's going to push people out of the program. And then on the offensive side of the ball, OU always is able to bring in somebody on the offensive line, right? I think just, Matauer is a little hurt this year because I expected a lot more out of him. And I think a lot of other people did too. So I'd expect this team to look completely different next year, and I expect them to be a lot better next year as well, just through the additions of the transfer portal itself, because with them having the full cycle of the transfer portal, I'd expect them to be able to get who they want out of there.
Put this question up there. What impressed you all the most today? Is there anything that stood out to you, PG?
The 180 turn on the defense. Again, I know when you look at the total yards, you might be like, well, they gave up. Well, yeah, they gave them up, but it was all passing yards. And when you throw 30, when you complete 37 passes out of your 57, yeah, you're going to have a high passing yards, and when you look at what it is, they weren't blowing coverages. They were staying on their man. They got 3 picks. Seth Oliveras tweeted it. When was the last time you've seen an Oklahoma team get 3 picks in a game?
Yeah.
Things like that are really encouraging because when you have to go play Texas Tech or West Virginia, both of those teams, they're going to air the ball out and they're going to test you, right? And so, yeah, that's what impressed me the most.
I would say, I think what impressed me the most, probably, honestly, I would say that last drive. That very last drive, whenever we got that stop, usually everybody knew what was happening. They were leaving Hutchinson out there to go and try to, catch a back shoulder pass. But, man, to be able to stay right there and stay in it, finally get the stop on 4th down, it was pretty impressive. And then be able to run the ball, run the clock out, be done with the game, get up out of Ames, it's impressive. You know what? Scratch all that. I'll tell you what's the most impressive thing. Most impressive thing is that you went up there and you handled your business on the road again. Okay. And you went up there and you're starting to, you're starting to make the doubters weary, because now they're thinking, you know what? Okay, yeah, maybe they overestimated this team. Maybe I did a little bit as well, but you're just saying, okay, looks like they may be turning the corner now. So I don't think that for the rest of these games, you're going to see what you saw in obviously the Texas game. That's not going to happen, or the TCU game, to be quite frank with you. I think that all these teams, O State included, are going to have to play OU rather close, tough, and uncomfortably down the stretch. And I think that OU is in prime position to possibly run the table the rest of the way and go 9-3.
Yeah, no, they're definitely in prime position. If Oklahoma loses a game, it's going to be at home to either Baylor or Oklahoma State, and it ain't going to be a blowout. It's going to be something like what we saw against Kansas State, where it kind of comes down to a play or so, which Kansas State just scored on Oklahoma State, so it's 7-0. I'm curious though, since TCU won today, if we run the table, does that take us out of Big 12 championship contention now?
I mean, shout out to my guy Sean. As you guys may know him on YouTube as Oni Kuno, but he made a video the other day about how OU could make it to the Big 12 championship game. It's still a long shot because we're only 2-3, but we just need some key losses. I mean, let's be real. I think we all believe that Texas is going to lose at least a few more ball games. That's just my opinion. But real quick, let's go back to the comments real quick. This is one I definitely want to talk about at a later time, but maybe do we move on from LaDainian Washington or do we keep him? But as far as the question was, what impressed you all the most today? We said OU winning ugly. Carvin said good pressure and great effort on defense. Exactly. That's a great way to phrase exactly how that defensive line played. Secondary. We won by 14 points. That was pretty impressive. The defense won the game, obviously. I'll give it that. And then he says Texas is going 7-5. I can see that. Let's see. Carvin says was not impressed with Dylan Gabriel in the passing game. I don't necessarily know if it was Dylan Gabriel's fault today. We've all come on this show on all of our shows. And we've said, hey, he's missing guys. He's not on time. He's taking coverage sacks, this and that, right? But, I mean, I'm just going to be real with you. I from what I saw from Gabriel today, I don't necessarily think it was his fault. I think just we had some wide receivers just dropping the balls.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Fans got to understand, we have to have Dylan Gabriel. If we don't have Dylan Gabriel, this team is going to lose, right? And so you have to have Dylan Gabriel out there. Let's just figure it out next season. We'll figure out our quarterback situation next season, because I know people are not high on this take, but I promise you, if Dylan Gabriel is missing passes in the spring and throughout the summer and Jackson Arnold comes in, because Jackson Arnold is running a very similar to offense to what Jeff Lebby runs out at Denton Guyer. Yeah. So if he comes in and he's able to pick up the offense quickly and be as accurate as he is out there at Denton Guyer, he could give Dylan Gabriel a run for the money at the quarterback position. Yeah. So I think we just need to wait till next season. Let's let it. And also, if Dylan Gabriel gets a whole offseason with these folks, right, a whole nother offseason, he's going to get better, right? If Mims decides to stay and Weiss decide to stay, which I think they should, because if they stay, they're only going to have a better chance to increase their draft stock. Yeah. Right. Because next year they will have a better connection with Dylan Gabriel. So I don't expect to see the same Dylan Gabriel next year. Or if we do, it's probably not going to be Dylan Gabriel in the backfield.
Here's what I was going to say. Here is somebody that is really key. And I think I don't know how he's going to finish this season, but I think next season he's going to have a huge season. Jalil Farouk is that guy.
He is.
He's a Swiss Army knife out there. He is a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, and you saw that in the bowl game last year against Oregon, right? He was that target for Caleb Williams. And honestly, I'm really surprised he didn't leave with Caleb Williams. And I'm curious to see if he stays, right? I'm curious to see if he stays on the team this year and doesn't enter the portal. I definitely think that could be a possibility depending on what that exodus looks like at USC at the receiver position. So I think that's a guy you have to keep an eye on, because he could be a superstar for the Sooners, especially with some of the receivers that are coming in out of this recruiting class.
Mm-hmm. No, man, I'm really excited. I think the future is promising around here, and I think people are starting to see that. Not only can Venables coach, but Venables just got to get his guys in here, right? So it's got there. We have depth issues in a lot of places. We have just a lot of young guys playing in a lot of places as well. And so, I mean, that's the thing. Like I said, the future is promising. I mean, everybody is huge on Kanik. Everybody wants Kanik to play, wants this, and Venables is just preaching patience, So, one other thing, I'll have to definitely take a parting shot at my Sooners. I'll say probably the most impressive thing was that we didn't come out there and try to line up in a 3-3-5 all day. It makes so. I mean, when you see 4 down linemen for OU, you feel better and you feel more confident in what they're going to do because you feel like, okay, now we're not trying to do this whole 3 down lineman, which I don't believe we can run at this point with the current personnel that we have, right?
Well, the thing is, with the 4 defensive linemen, I would argue that the defensive line is probably one of your better positions on the defensive side of the ball. But it doesn't work for a 3-3-5 because you don't have the personnel for it. But if you run a 4-man front, it just works better because you have the guys that can play that. And so I agree. The 4-man front is what we need to run probably from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch this wide receiver coach question thing.
Go ahead.
Because I do think we should retain LaDainian Washington. I don't think he should stay the wide receivers coach. But you look at a wide receiver coach like Brian Hartline out at Ohio State. You're not getting him. But you need to get somebody like him because Brian Hartline has done nothing but have a track record of producing great wide receivers. So you have the guy out there at Oklahoma State, Casey Dunn. I think he could be a potential option. Could you go out there and get him? Or you could bring in Cortez Hankton from LSU. I don't remember if he is the same guy that was out there in a part of that national championship team, but I would definitely go out there and try to find him. There's a lot of options out there. And here's my thing. If you're Oklahoma, you have to start doing what Ohio State and some of these other elite programs have done. You have to be able to go out there and be willing to pay more than everybody else for an elite coordinator or an elite coach. That's just how it is. You have the money to do it. Go out there and do it because that's how you're going to be able, especially at the receiver position. I feel like OU has really under-recruited and underperformed at that position, especially with the amount of great quarterbacks that we've had, right? We miss out on 5-star wide receivers all the time that we should be missing out on. I'm watching Emeka Egbuka today over at Ohio State, and I'm like, how did we miss this guy? How did we not land him? And the simple question the answer is we don't have an elite wide receiver coach. Brian Hartline has a track record.
I mean, Dennis Simmons. I mean, it's hard because a lot of people kind of now. Obviously, he's taking a lot of heat still off of what what Lincoln Riley is doing, and he's taking a lot of heat for what Lincoln Riley did, but the whole thing is that Dennis Simmons, he had CeeDee Lamb outside of that. I don't know, right? But you do got to go get an elite coach. But at the same time, I think some of these guys are falling to some of these people's laps, right? Like Brendan Mary and a lot of guys like that. They're working their ways up the ramp. And the thing to think about as well is, these are like former players, all the rest of that stuff. They're coming up through the ranks, all the rest of that. They're homegrown talent somewhere, and then they're, basically going and getting that contract somewhere else, just like Marion down there at Texas, right? You got Malcolm Kelly, who's been at TCU for the longest. Obviously he was our star wide receiver, and then he went down there and he started coaching, and then boom, just started developing those relationships, and he was able to get out there. Obviously, that's a guy that you're going to target this offseason and see, hey, do you want to make this jump? What's good? But at the same time, I'm fine with what I've seen from LaDainian, but at the same time, I think I do agree with what you guys are saying as far as that we need to go get an elite wide receiver coach.
Yeah, you can't take the chance of not having an elite wide receiver coach right now. And here's the reason why. Because next year in the wide receivers, OU has a really good chance at landing a really high star wide receiver in Ryan Wingo from St. Louis. And additionally, OU's offered Micah Hudson and Jeremiah Smith, who are both 2 top 10 players in the class next year. So, and Ryan Wingo's 10th overall best player, but the number 3 at the wide receiver position. So you've definitely got to be winning those 5-star wide receivers that are close to home. And then in 2025, you have that kid from Millwood, the 5-star receiver from Millwood, Oklahoma, Jaden Nickens, right? That's another guy that OU's going to be able to go out there and win. And I'm not sure you can do it without an elite wide receiver coach. And so for OU to be able to go out there and win these guys, I think that's what they have to do. And they're going to have to pay money.
Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback. Now, I know NIL will be a big thing and all the rest of that stuff, but I do think that you'll be able to get them because, one, this offense is going to be extremely explosive at some point. The payoff is you're going to see that payoff eventually. And then, two, the fact of the matter is that, like that kid from Millwood or whatever the case may be, Venables is going to put a lot of pressure on OSU and Tulsa and Arkansas coming in from over there. He's going to do everything in his power to keep all these kids in Oklahoma. These kids grow up wanting to play for OU, but the problem is what happened?
Oh, Deuce Vaughn just broke one out for a touchdown. Oh, that was nice. That was nice fun. This could be 14-0 Kansas State. Well, I mean, he busted one at least 50 yards. But
no, like back to what I was saying though, with Venables though, Venables is going to make sure that these kids don't leave the state. He's going to keep them in state as much as he possibly can. And the fact of the matter is that he's repairing those relationships that were a bit broken after the Raleigh era, right? So I'm confident in what he's going to be able to do in the the type of recruiters that we have.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen him put more of an emphasis on it, which you're right. You know, losing a guy like Luke Haas, the 4-star tight end to Arkansas, which, by the way, I mean, we need tight ends, especially losing Braden Willis this year. I don't know if we get to keep Daniel Parker. He might be a senior. You know, we're definitely going to need more tight ends in that room. And then you have Micah Tease that we lost to Arkansas. You lost Cole Adams to Alabama. I know he is going to make more of a emphasis on that. And you've already heard some of the high school recruits say that they haven't seen an Oklahoma head coach walk through their locker rooms, walk through their schools in a long time. And so that's going to change, especially with all the talent that's coming out of Edmond.
But some of those kids, like Micah Tease, like you named, he wanted to play a different position than what OU wanted him at, you know. And I mean that's kind of the thing, and there's a good chance that he probably ends up playing the position. They defensively is what they wanted him at, but he wanted to play slot, and that's what Arkansas told him that they would recruit him as. But you never know. How's he going to get on the field? Is he going to get on the field that way or whatever the case may be? So it's just one of those things, you know. Obviously the Presley kid, those kids, obviously his older brother was playing at OSU already. So, I mean, that was a solid connection. Then you look at the Luke Haas kids, we had him at one point, but then whenever Raleigh left, I mean, that was kind of what that was. And then the Cole Adams kid, I think that was just a matter of just us being just a day late and a dollar short, to be honest with you, to offer him and to get him. But I think that especially these next few classes with the amount of talent coming out of Oklahoma, you're going to be just fine. And I think you're going to get a majority of those players as well.
Yeah, specifically, I would say, Tulsa's always going to have their talent, but you watch out for Edmond, Oklahoma. They've got quite a few guys in 2024 and 2025 that could kind of soar up there in the rankings. Specifically, I know there's a quarterback in 25. I can't think of his name. He plays at Edmond Memorial. But, yeah, they could definitely start making a push, especially in the city of Edmond.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, and they will. I mean, it's OU. OU's going to be able to recruit nationally and in state for sure really well. And if they're laying the groundwork to repair those relationships and do what they need to do, lock down the state, especially if you're going to have talent like that, because that's something that Venables came in talking about that. So definitely excited about that. Let's see what we got in here. Carvin says, what about Nick Anderson and the other? I think he's talking about Jaden Gibson. I'm excited for those guys going forward. You hear great things about them. Just got to put it together. Obviously, you see, we kind of had to circle the wagon a little bit with the wide receiver room because you thought J.J. Hester would be out there. You thought you would see some more of Bunkley as well. But when Evans gets here, when Petaway gets here, you're going to start seeing this let's just call it what it is, this Baylor style offense, this Art Browse era type offense. You're going to see it because you're going to have all these different type of receivers out there. And not only you're going to be giving them different looks, these exotic looks that Levy likes to come out there with all the creativity that he has, but you're also going to say, okay, so on the slot we got Petaway, on the outside we got Evans, but then here you go on the other side of the ball on the outside, here goes Jaden Gibson. You get what I'm saying? So you're gonna have and you're gonna be really long. You're gonna be athletic as well. A guy like Caden Helms could come on. Then you're gonna see Lelevin could come on as well. So I mean, you're really talented, and you got some really, really good young talent out there. It's just gonna take that much more time.
Yeah, this wide receiver room next year could look very, very interesting if Marvin Mims and Theo Weiss stay. Because, like you said, the looks are just going to be, I mean, how do you defend a look with Marvin Mims, Theo Weiss, Jaden Gibson? And, I mean, how do you defend that? I wish we'd see more Jaden Gibson this season. So
yeah. Man, I would like to, let's see. Looking at the receiving,
a year suspension is good enough for Kel Gundy. No, I don't think Kel Gundy's coming back. I have a friend that's friends with the Gundys, and he said that like when Brent Venables showed up, and Stoops said, "Hey, there's a couple guys in here that wonder if they've got jobs." He went and talked to everybody but Kel Gundy. So if that's true, I don't think Kel Gundy's coming back.
Let's see. Turk was big today. Man, I really like the Freeman kid. He's really came on. I mean, sometimes one of the
he's going to earn a scholarship. He's going to earn a scholarship by the end.
Yeah, no, for sure. One of the things about OU spring ball that is like true for the most part is that if you hear about somebody being hot or doing something or going off and during spring practices or summer ball, even probably not going to hear from him during the season. But that Gavin Freeman kid, you heard all about him, and I mean, hell, he's made plays every time he was on the field. So let's look at that. Okay, Jalil Farouk had 4 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown. I don't know how he was that wide open on that play, especially with them running that 3-3-5.
Stoops was just, Stoops did what you wanted him to do.
Yeah. Stoops had 3 receptions for 34 yards. He was able to move the ball. Mims, 2 catches for 16 yards. I think that's more Mims than anything, but he'll be fine. Braden Willis was kind of quiet today. I mean, obviously, the effort, the blocking, all the rest of that, but he had 2 catches for 8 yards. So I don't expect it to be like that, which, hey, Iowa State statistically is the best defense in the Big 12. So, I mean, obviously, if this is the game to have an off game, then hey, it is what it is.
I tell you, the thing that impressed me most about the offense was the running game against the Iowa State defense. I didn't expect our running game to be that impressive. And I say that impressive because if Eric Gray wouldn't have gotten hurt earlier, and I think it was the 3rd quarter or early in the 4th, he would have had a lot more yards, and that running game would have looked a lot more impressive. And watching Oklahoma State, you're going to have to attack them by the running game. That looks like that. If you got a good running game, it looks like that's what's going to work, right? So,
I'll be honest with you, this game right here may be this may kind of be the example game or the blueprint game for Oklahoma State because, in my opinion, they both kind of play similar. Obviously, they have the better. I don't know. It's hard because, hey, Iowa State's coach is a really good coach, but Gundy's really good as well. But what I will say is this right here is that Oklahoma State has no run game. All their plays are made pretty much Spencer Sanders.
Literally, if you're Oklahoma, here's how you beat Oklahoma State. You run the ball. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you literally attach a spy, and he does not leave Spencer Sanders. I don't care what. You do not leave Spencer Sanders until the ball is out of his hands. And, and then you just continue to apply pressure because if you can shut down Spencer Sanders, Oklahoma State ain't going to score. They're like Oklahoma. Spencer Sanders is to Oklahoma State what Dylan Gabriel is to Oklahoma.
That's not saying much, then. Let's see. go. Putting this up there. Here's the question. Here's the last question right here before, and we'll get out of here after this one. Thoughts on the Baylor matchup, everybody? What have you, if anybody has seen Baylor play this year, what do we have to do to beat them? Obviously, Dave Aranda is still there. Great defensive mind. He's going to call a great defensive game against us. What do we have to do to get the win against Baylor next week?
Yeah, I mean, their offense isn't that bad. They're averaging about 37 points a game, about 458 total yards. I mean, I would say they're 261 in the passing game, 197 in the rushing. Honestly, if you're Oklahoma, you've got to be able to make teams, I think, not be able to beat you in your weak point, right? And I think the weak point in the defense has always been the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're Oklahoma, you kind of have to come out and immediately make a statement like you did in this game, get a pick or do something to show Baylor that they're not just going to be able to throw the ball all over you, that they're not going to be able to get big chunk plays. Yeah. I think that's probably, for the defense, the biggest goal. If you can go out there and you can cover their defenders well, I think you've got a really, really good shot to beat Baylor by 2 scores. Because
Shaping, I'll be honest with you, look, you kind of played Shaping light today, like Okie light, but Shaping light with Hunter Decker. Shaping is a capable quarterback. Is he as highly, I mean, is he great like they made us believe leading up to the season? No. Can he beat you? Yes. He can go out there and he can work the field. He can make the passes. He can make the deep throws when it's there. Just like any time that you play Baylor, in my opinion, I think that you have to go out there and meet their physicality with physicality. Be the more physical team on both sides of the line of scrimmage, and go and do what you got to do. Got to score too as well. And I think there's going to be opportunities. That Baylor defense hasn't looked great as they have, or that how they did last year. Was it like they did last year? I think you got a great opportunity to go out there and secure the win. Plus, you're playing at home, so there's no doubt in my mind that you can't get that done. Let's see.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing, though. After watching the game today, if you're an Oklahoma fan, you have to have confidence now in what the offense can do against a good defense, because Iowa State is one of the best defenses in all of college football this year. And so for OU to be able to go out there and establish a running game, and let's be honest, if the passes aren't dropped, they've got a good passing game. Like, It wasn't because Iowa State was defending this pass. It was just the receivers were dropping balls. So when I look at this game and I look at what Oklahoma did, I look at it and go, they could beat, like, they can beat anybody else on this schedule. And they could have beat anybody they lost to, because this offense can establish really well out over these strong defenses.
And I think that's what I think that, that was kind of the funny thing about this game is I think the commentators were like, hey, this Iowa State defense is great. OU is moving the ball up and down the field like it's nothing against them. And so it's just they didn't get the payoff, which is the touchdown. Let's see. Jimmy says we have to be able to run the ball. That will set up our passing down the field. That's always a must. I mean, that's what really helped us today. Got to be able to win those one-on-ones whenever with their linebackers, because you know that he's going to be crashing an awful lot. What's his name? Excuse me. David Aranda is going to crash a lot of dudes. I call it crash blitz because he sends a guy on the edge and then he sends a guy up the middle. And basically, it's almost like a zero blitz, in my opinion, but it's not. Let's see. Hank says Baylor's defense is missing that safety. I think he's talking about Petrie or whoever it was last year. So OU should be able to move the ball easier than they did last year. I think so as well. And I think one of the differences in this game is that, hey, I'm not comparing the talent, so please don't run with this. But I do think that Dylan Gabriel sees the field better than Caleb Williams. Just my opinion, at least at that point thus far in his career, he was just a true freshman, right?
Yeah. So, you would expect Dylan Gabriel to probably play better than a true freshman last year, especially against the Baylor defense last year that was completely suffocating.
Sure. See, Carmen, a better effort on offense and better timing from the passing game. If the defense plays as well as they played today, we win. I definitely agree with that. Stubby says, "What up, guys? What's up, man? Let's see." I put a question up here earlier, and I said, "What was the most impressive thing that we saw?" And let's see, where is it that comment at? I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, I can't find it. Oh, somebody said, "Hey, we won. That's the most impressive thing." And I was like, "Hey, that really is the most impressive thing." Is there anything else that you could think of that you want to say before we get up off of here, PG?
No, other than you fans just need to continue to have patience with BV and just get ready for a good recruiting cycle because it's definitely not over yet.
I think with us playing at home, we will win. We will play a lot better on offense. I hope so. I hope so. We haven't played that great at home, in my opinion, but it'd be great if we do. Stubby says, overall, I thought DG had a good game, but he let down. He was let down by some of his receivers. Exactly. That was our thoughts as well.
Oh, he could have had a 300-yard day today.
Oh, for easily.
He could have had a 300-yard, 3 or 4 touchdown day today. I mean, that's without it. I don't expect to see that bad of a game for the receivers again.
I think we all put our heads down when on that easy out route that Mims ran when he dropped it. I said, "Hot damn!" I was like, "Man,
can we also acknowledge though? Yeah, can we also acknowledge though? Like this is their first cold game of the year. Like it was cold today in Iowa State. And listen, when it's your first really cold game, that can play a factor into just the way that your bones move and everything else. So, you know what? We got the win. It might have not been the prettiest win, but I think there's a lot of good things that you can take from this game, especially from the defensive side of the ball. Looks like they've been well rested. I'm curious to see if BV takes the advice of Smitty and a lot of these other guys and gives them Mondays off so that just they have the ability to go recoup and rest, especially with that new facility that they have with those like little chambers and stuff. Those things are awesome. So
it's pretty cool. It looks really good.
Yeah. Listen, OU still got a shot here, guys. And I put a poll up on Twitter the other day and I said, would you guys rather see Oklahoma win the Big 12 championship and go to a New Year's Six bowl, or would you rather see Oklahoma go play USC at a bowl game? I would rather go see him go play USC in a bowl game. I'd love to see year one Oklahoma versus year one USC.
This is what I want to do. Okay. I want OU to keep winning and change the narrative. Change the narrative. Be one of the hottest teams to end the season. Be that team that says, okay, TCU and Texas, that won't happen again. This is us right now. But we're only going to get better. We're only going to keep leveling up. That's all that you want to do. And yeah, like Anthony Crawford said, hey, we just want to go to a bowl. I mean, I think that's how I am right now. I think Gray will be fine. I think you'll see him next week. I think
he walked off on his own power and he came back in and he went back off. He'll be fine. He probably just tweaked something.
One last thing I'll say, man, I definitely want to see Theo get be more involved in the pass game. But at the same time, I can't complain. I know what we're trying to do. It's a process. We just got to trust it.
Oh, another thing we didn't talk about because I just noticed it with the Kansas State game.
What's that?
Dylan Gabriel has to go down a little quicker sometimes because there were a couple times where I saw the Iowa State defenders like almost hit him, and my breath just left my body for a second. So he's got to learn to go down just a smidge quicker.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Last comment. Stubby says, "I want OU to go 9-3, no more losses. Show that Brent has the things on the right track. If we go 8-4, I accept that." I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, and especially, you definitely want to be able to have good performances, especially at home, because there's some big recruits coming in over the next couple of weeks. One of them, David Hicks, is still trying to make it out to the Oklahoma State game. So, you want to be able to have good performances over the next couple of weeks, especially at home on the defensive side of the ball. You want to be able to replicate what you took today over the next several weeks so that, you can really start showing the recruits that are wanting to come in that Brent Venables' system still works and that there is an improvement. Once they start to see that improvement, you are going to see, I think, a huge change in the recruiting class.
All right, PG, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you at.
You say where did they find me?
Yeah, I said tell everybody where
Sorry,
they can
my
find you. You're good.
my AirPods broke up. It's time for some new ones. Yeah, y'all can find me on YouTube or Apple, Google, or Spotify. Just the PG Show, all one word. You guys can find me on Twitter, the PG Show _. We talk about all things college football, but as you guys can tell, I'm an OU fan, so I like to give my Sooners a little bit more of that love. I'm going out to the Denton Geyer game on Thursday, so I'm definitely going to have some things to say about some of those recruits, and you never know, maybe we can get another couple of them on. So.
All right. Well, yeah, definitely, guys, go and check out PG's show. He always has great interviews, great content, great everything. You see it on the bottom at the PG show. You can follow us at the Horns Down Podcast. Shout out to my guy, Seth Oliveris. Follow me at Kchris with a K. Guys, this has been another episode of the Horns Down Podcast. Share, like, subscribe, do all of those things. Holler at us.